Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Just think about it for a moment. The Lombardi Trophy still has fresh fingerprints all over it. The confetti from the 2025 Super Bowl has barely been swept off the stadium floor, and you know the smell of champagne probably still lingers in the lockers over at the Virginia Mason Athletic Center. The championship rings, they're literally just now being sized for the players' fingers. But here's the brutal, unforgiving reality of the National Football League. Glory is fleeting, and the price of defending a championship is paid in blood, sweat, and just an unbearable, suffocating amount of tension. Welcome back to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are unpacking the absolute anatomy of a collapsing dynasty. We are taking a cinematic, deep dive into a Seattle Seahawks organization that is currently staring down an off-season crisis so severe, so completely unexpected, that it actually threatens to shatter their entire foundation before the first snap of the 2026 season. But before we tear into the smallest, most crucial details of this unfolding drama, I need you to do a few quick things for us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button on this explainer, and drop a comment down below with what you honestly think about Seattle's fate this year. And if you really want to support the deep documentary-style dives we do right here on NFL Nexus, please consider becoming a channel member. Your support is what lets us keep uncovering the hard truth behind the turf. Okay, brace yourselves, because right now the defending champions of the football world are bleeding. So it begs the ultimate question, right? How fast can a championship foundation crumble? I want you to really think about that. You spend years, literally years, building a culture. You draft meticulously, obsessing over every late-round pick. You scheme flawlessly. You endure the grueling regular season. You survive the playoffs, and you finally reach the absolute pinnacle of the sport. You are the kings of the mountain. But gravity always pulls the absolute hardest on the team sitting at the top. The sheer crushing weight of an NFL offseason is essentially a meat grinder for championship rosters. You've got the physical toll of playing high-stakes football all the way deep into February. You've got the inevitable salary cap casualties. And maybe, worst of all, you have the relentless, predatory pursuit by the other 31 franchises who want nothing more than to rip your coordinators, your position coaches, and your star players right away from you. The offseason can take a seemingly invincible powerhouse and turn it into a massive question mark in the blink of an eye. What we are about to look at today isn't just a minor bump in the road. It is a catastrophic, cascading series of events that is threatening to completely derail a dynasty before it even has the chance to take its first real steps as the reigning kings of the league. Section 1. A championship under threat. The disrespect they are facing right now is just palpable. You can practically feel it hanging in the air out in Seattle. Look at this situation. Here you have the Seattle Seahawks, the undisputed defending 2025 Super Bowl champions. They hold the ultimate prize. Yet, if you were to turn on any national sports network right now, scroll through your social media feeds, or listen to the major pundits, you would honestly think this team didn't even make the playoffs last year. They are completely, utterly overshadowed. Just look at the broader landscape of the NFC West. The media focus has violently, almost inexplicably, shifted away from the Pacific Northwest. The 2025 Super Bowl champs are being actively pushed to the margins, while the Los Angeles Rams are absolutely dominating the 2026 hype machine. The Rams have been busy building what the national media perceives as the shiny, unstoppable new super team. They've made these flashy offseason additions, bringing in high-priced free agents, and they are just bathing in the Hollywood lights. Suddenly, the media has basically crowned a brand new king before the regular season even begins. I want you to imagine the visceral tension inside that Seattle locker room right now. You literally bled for that championship. You survived the absolute gauntlet of the NFC, and the moment you step back onto the practice field for training camp, you realize the entire narrative has already moved on without you. This isn't just a simple oversight by the media. It operates as a psychological weapon. It forces the Seahawks to fight an exhausting internal battle against doubt and disrespect every single day. It sets an incredibly tense, hostile stage for what they must overcome, making them feel entirely abandoned by the national narrative, despite being the ones actually holding the crown. Section 2. The Backfield Crisis. Okay, let's dive into this. Because as bad as it sounds, that psychological disrespect is really only scratching the surface. The real terror for Seattle right now lies down in the trenches, and specifically in the backfield. We are looking at the sudden, breathtaking collapse of their championship running game. The absolute humming engine of their title run has basically been ripped right out of the chassis. Let's break down this nightmare chronologically, because it's the timing of these events that makes this so completely devastating for the front office. First, free agency hits, and the man who hoisted the Super Bowl MVP trophy, the heart and soul of their ground attack, Kenneth Walker III, walks out the door. The explosive, ankle-breaking cuts, that generational field vision, the sheer, relentless willpower that carried this entire franchise through the darkest moments of the playoffs, it's just gone. Poof. That alone is a massive structural blow to the identity of this offense. You do not just effortlessly replace a player who can break a stagnant game wide open at any given second. It changes how defenses play you entirely. But, championship teams pivot. That's what they do. They adapt to the chaos. So the Seahawks immediately look to their bruising sophomore back, Zach Charbonnet, to take the mantle and be the workhorse. They plan the whole offseason around him. And then the absolute unthinkable happens. During the grinding, unglamorous workouts of the offseason, there's a sudden, sharp pain, a torn ACL for Zach Charbonnet. We really need to understand exactly what an anterior cruciate ligament tear means for a bruising downhill running back in today's NFL. It is absolutely not just a tweak that you ice up and play through. It is a catastrophic snap of the knee's stabilizing band. It means immediate, massive swelling. It means a grueling, isolated 9 to 12 months of agonizing physical rehabilitation. It means muscle atrophy in the exact same legs that you need to power through 300-pound defensive linemen. In a matter of just a few agonizing months, Seattle lost the two massive pillars of their ground attack. It was a devastating 1-2 punch that completely decimated a backfield that was supposed to terrorize the NFC all over again. I can only imagine the absolute suffocating silence that followed Charbonnet's diagnosis in that front office. And when you look at who is left standing in the wake of this disaster, you see a terrifying lack of NFL pedigree. The front office had to scramble, and scramble hard. They went out and brought in Emmanuel Wilson in free agency. Now, Wilson is a player fighting tooth and nail just to prove he belongs in this league, but he fundamentally lacks the microscopic, innate pass protection instincts required to keep a starting quarterback alive when a zero blitz is coming on third down. Then they drafted Jadorian Price, and by doing that, they are thrusting the crushing, suffocating expectations of a Super Bowl title defense squarely onto the shoulders of a rookie. Think about the sheer terror of a rookie hitting the NFL rookie wall, trying to frantically master a complex NFL blocking scheme and suddenly being tasked with stepping up into the A-gap to pick up a 250-pound blazing fast linebacker like Fred Warner. It's a recipe for disaster. And then they are also relying on George Halani, a player completely surrounded by massive question marks regarding his durability and his ability to hold up against the sheer weekly violence of an NFL regular season. This patched-together emergency trio simply lacks the proven, battle-tested scars needed to anchor a legitimate title defense. You absolutely cannot march into hostile environments on the road in December with an unproven backfield and expect to dictate the brutal terms of engagement. Right now, this offense is staring into a massive, terrifying void.
Section 3. Enter Najee Harris. But, sometimes from absolute despair, there emerges a tiny, fragile path to redemption. NFL analyst Jake Beckman has proposed a highly intriguing, low-risk, high-reward lifeline for this bleeding roster, and we need to talk about it. 4. I want that number to just burn into your mind for a second. 4. In the brutal, unforgiving, modern NFL, a league where running backs are routinely chewed up and discarded like absolute afterthoughts, Najee Harris began his career by delivering 4 consecutive 1,000-yard rushing seasons for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 4 straight years of carrying the rock, taking the heavy hits, and flat-out refusing to go down on first contact. I really want you to think about the insane physical toll of that accomplishment. Think about the constantly loaded defensive boxes in the AFC North, arguably the most physical division in football. Think about the constant, high-speed, helmet-to-helmet collisions with some of the biggest linebackers in the world. The sheer human endurance and willpower required to subject your body to that level of punishment for 4 straight years without breaking is staggering. That number, 4, represents a level of historic baseline reliability that the Seattle Seahawks are currently begging for.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what Najee Harris brings to the table when he is right. When you look at the raw data, it paints a picture of a total workhorse. Let's look at the smallest, most important details here on this table. Yes, obviously the 1,200 rookie rushing yards are fantastic. That shows you the raw talent. But I want you to look at the second line, 74 receptions in a single season. Why is this so incredibly vital for Seattle right now? Because Harris is not just a one-dimensional downhill bruiser. He is a legitimate dual-threat workhorse. He acts as the ultimate safety blanket. And for a quarterback like Sam Darnold, who is absolutely going to be under immense pressure this year behind a reshuffled line, that is priceless. When the pocket inevitably collapses, you desperately need a back who can cleanly catch a checkdown pass under heavy duress and turn a devastating 2-yard loss into a gritty, chain-moving 6-yard gain. Najee bails out broken plays. And then there's the efficiency metric, 3.9 yards per carry. And I know what you're thinking. To the untrained, fantasy football-obsessed eye, that might not sound super explosive. You want to see 5 yards a pop, right? But in the cinematic, grueling bloodbath of the NFL trenches, a guaranteed 3.9 yards means you are constantly, relentlessly falling forward. It means when it is 3rd and 2 in the fourth quarter, you are moving the chains and keeping your drive alive. It means keeping your exhausted defense off the field and controlling the flow of the clock.
It is exactly the kind of gritty, lunch pail efficiency a championship team needs to stabilize a rocking ship. But there is always a catch. You guys know this. There is always a massive catch when a player of this caliber is suddenly available this late in the offseason process. We have to weigh this dynamically, juxtaposing the unstoppable force he was in the past against the massive question mark he might be right now. Look at item 1, the reliable past. Those 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons forged in the freezing steel city of Pittsburgh. We know that guy is a warrior. But then you have to look at item 2, the immediate terrifying risk. Harris spent the 2025 campaign playing for the Los Angeles Chargers, and to be blunt, it was a complete nightmare. His season ended abruptly after just 3 games with a catastrophic, fully torn Achilles tendon. Listen, an Achilles tear is widely known in sports medicine as the ultimate grim reaper for running backs. It is vastly, fundamentally different from an ACL tear. The Achilles tendon is the massive spring in the back of your leg. It is exactly what gives a professional runner their sudden explosion off the line of scrimmage. When that tendon snaps, it literally steals your ability to violently plant your foot in the turf and make a sudden explosive cut to evade a tackle. By the time week 1 of 2026 rolls around, Najee Harris will be approaching a full year of grueling, agonizing, lonely recovery. The question isn't whether he has the heart or if he wants it bad enough. The real question is the immense psychological hurdle of trusting that surgically repaired tendon again. Will his brain allow his body to push off with full force? And will the tendon actually hold up when a 300-pound defensive tackle rolls up on the back of his leg?
So, taking all of that scary medical history into account, the crucial point we have to ask is, why in the world would Seattle take the risk? It's simple, really, because at 28 years old, Najee Harris represents a highly calculated, desperate gamble that championship-level front offices are sometimes forced to make. Championship windows in the National Football League do not slowly glide shut, they slam closed in the blink of an eye. You do not get a generous 5-year grace period to defend a title. You get right now, today. Harris is essentially a low-risk, short-term Band-Aid for a roster that is firmly unconditionally in win-now mode. Signing a rehabbing Harris wouldn't require a massive multi-year financial commitment that mortgages Seattle's future salary cap flexibility. It wouldn't destroy their ability to sign their younger stars next year. Instead, it buys them the single most precious commodity in the entire NFL, time. It literally buys them the crucial weeks and months required for Zach Charbonnet to fully finish his ACL rehab without the organization being pressured to rush him back onto the field prematurely and risk a re-tear. It provides a massive, veteran, physical shield for this offense. Even if the Najee Harris we see in 2026 only has 80% of his former Pittsburgh power, that 80% is still enough to stabilize a backfield that is currently teetering right on the edge of the abyss.
Section 4, the quarterback distraction. But the threats to an NFL dynasty aren't just physical. Torn knee ligaments and blown Achilles tendons, as horrible as they are really only half the battle. The other half, the silent killer of great teams, is fought entirely in the mind. Let's pivot away from the physical trauma in the running back room for a second and look at the absolute psychological warfare facing the Seattle Seahawks right now. Listen to this exact quote currently radiating out from the national sports media echo chamber. The Seahawks are not the favorites. They have a new narrative to shed involving quarterback Sam Darnold and new offensive coordinator Brian Fleury. Guys, this is exactly the kind of annoying, pervasive, incredibly toxic off-field noise that actively destroys a team's focus. The media has collectively decided that because Brian Fleury's a first-year offensive coordinator stepping into the ultimate unforgiving pressure cooker of a title defense, and because Sam Darnold, a player who is still unfairly carrying the heavy ghosts of his past struggles from his days in New York and Carolina, is stepping into this blinding, intense spotlight, that the entire offensive system is just naturally destined to fail. Think about how that impacts a team's daily life. Every single time Fleury calls a play in a Tuesday practice that doesn't work out perfectly, this negative narrative loudly echoes in the background. Every time Darnold throws an interception in a basic 7-on-7 training camp drill, the cameras start flashing, the reporters start tweeting, and the national pundits start happily writing their premature obituaries for the Seattle offense. Imagine the incredibly tense film room dynamics when the entire outside world is screaming at the top of their lungs that you are going to fail. This media circus threatens to completely fracture the fragile developing trust between a brand new play caller and his veteran quarterback. It is a massive, looming distraction that this entire team must aggressively, ruthlessly tune out if they want to survive the season. Section 5. Defending the crown. And that brings us to the ultimate, unavoidable reality of the National Football League. Winning a Super Bowl is practically a miracle. The stars have to align perfectly. But repeating as champions, actually defending the crown the very next year, it is, without a doubt, the single hardest feat in all of professional sports. Every single week, you are getting the absolute best, most violent, most prepared version of your opponent. You are circled on their calendar. You are everyone's Super Bowl. And right now, these Seahawks are walking into that weekly gauntlet severely wounded and limping. Let's just pause and summarize the immense, suffocating pressure points that are mounting against this franchise as the final hot days of training camp slowly slip away. First, they are tasked with the almost impossible job of replacing a Super Bowl MVP in Kenneth Walker III. You simply cannot replicate that kind of game-breaking speed and institutional knowledge overnight. It leaves a massive schematic hole. Second, they are desperately trying to survive the agonizingly slow timeline of Zach Charbonnet's ACL rehab. Every single week he remains on the PUP list is another week they are forced to lean on unproven, terrified rookies to protect their quarterback. Third, they are fighting a brutal two-front war to manage the relentless Darnold and Fleury media circus. This kind of noise naturally seeps under the doors of the locker room, breeding doubt and paranoia, and they have to find a way to shut it down completely. And finally, sitting right there in front of the general manager's desk is the agonizing, make-or-break decision: do they pull the trigger and sign Najee Harris? It is an incredibly high-stakes gamble, risking the flow of their offense on a recovering Achilles tendon just to potentially save their season. Make no mistake, these are absolutely not small, everyday roster issues. These are deep-rooted, structural cracks forming in the hull of a championship ship, and the water is starting to rush in.
Which ultimately leaves us with the only question that truly matters as the shadows start to lengthen on the offseason and Week 1 rapidly approaches. Can this battered, bruised, and endlessly distracted offense truly defend their Super Bowl title? Can they manage to block out the deafening hype noise coming from Los Angeles, overcome the sheer physical destruction of their running back room, and find a gritty, ugly way to reign supreme once again? Or is this much-hyped Seattle dynasty effectively over before it ever truly began? I really want to know exactly what you think about this wild situation. Head down to the comments right now and tell me if you believe Seattle survives this crisis or if they crumble under the weight of the crown. Don't forget to subscribe to NFL Nexus, hit the like button on this explainer, and join as a channel member to keep these cinematic, deep-dive NFL stories coming your way. Until next time, keep your eyes on the gridiron, because the drama of the 2026 season is just beginning.